So now how do we compute these tangent vectors t and b? Now let's say we define these vectors t and b to look like that. We don't know what their values are, but they're on the tangent plane. Okay. Now one thing that we want to be actually careful about is we want to match the t and b to follow the direction on the texture. Okay, so actually the tangent space, any two vectors on the tangent plane can be used to define the tangent space, but we want the t and b to also follow the texture's orientation on the surface. Now that's for consistency, right? So how do we accomplish this? So let's say this edge from A to B, okay? Let's call this edge 1. Now how can we write edge 1? Now these vectors for A, I have the texture coordinates, okay? U 0, V0. For B, I have the texture coordinates U1, V1, and for C, I have U2, V2. Okay, so this is my edge 1 from A to B, and this is my edge 2 from A to C. Okay, so now how can I write this edge in terms of U, V's, and the T and B? So I can say that edge 1, my first edge, is equal to U1 minus U0. Okay, so U1 minus U0 T plus V1 minus V0 B. Okay, so this is where the matching orientation comes into play. So I'm saying that T should represent, or in other words, U1 minus U0 should represent a change along the T direction. Okay, so here I'm saying that the tangent space T and B should follow the orientation of the texture, actually, the way the texture is mapped on the surface. Okay, now we can repeat the same thing. E2 is equal to U2 minus U0 T plus V2 minus V0 B. Okay, now actually this is enough to find the t and b vectors. We have two equations and two unknowns, but to be more precise, let's write the take this and write it in an expanded form. Okay, now how can we write it in an expanded form? Let's say we have in here we have E1x, E1y, E1z, okay, E2x, E2y, E2z is equal to, okay, I'm going to say U1 minus U0, V1 minus V0, and U2 minus U0, and V2 minus V0, and then here I'm going to write Tx, Ty, Tz, Bx, By, Bz. Okay, this is the same equation that is written in a matrix form and where the individual components are shown. Now remember, this is the unknown. Okay, so I'm trying to find this. How can I find this? I simply take this matrix. I know this matrix, right? This is from the texture coordinates. Invert this matrix. Okay, so let's call this matrix A, matrix A. Okay, let's call this matrix E. Okay, and this is X. I want to find X. How do I find X? X is equal to A minus 1 E. So invert this 2 by 2 matrix and multiply it with E from the left to compute the tangent and bitangent vectors.